For years, hitting 10,000 steps each day was touted as the ideal amount of activity, the gold standard of movement. I used to wear an Apple Watch and I became totally obsessed with closing those rings. And if I hadn't hit my 10,000 steps or my calorie burn goal by the end of the day, I'd get up and I'd pace around my living room or do jumping jacks in my kitchen or take like totally ridiculous measures just to be able to claim I'd succeeded, in quotes, in my movement goal for that day. But what I failed to consider was what about the impact the movement I did do was having on my overall health, my fitness level, my ability to manage stress, my energy throughout the day? Those metrics, they don't ding on my Apple Watch. But does it mean that those things aren't contributing to my overall wellness? Of course not. They're actually more important than an arbitrary step count. They just don't come with that instant validation. So let me ask you this. How are you defining the success of your business? Is it purely financial statements, revenue milestones, growth and expansion, the size of your email list, or the number of followers that you have? Of course, those things do matter. But if those are the only metrics you're measuring, you're losing sight of the bigger picture. Today, I'm going to challenge you to reconsider your definition of success and start paying attention to the wins that don't show up on a dashboard or ding on your watch, but they may actually be the most meaningful indicators that you're building something sustainable and worthwhile. Welcome back to the Fitness of Business. Every episode kicks off with our listener question in a segment called Hey Coach. So, what would you ask if you had a business coach in your back pocket? Submit your question to Leslie at thefitnessofbusiness.com. Hey, coach, I'm working my butt off, like truly giving everything I have to my business. But I don't have the flashy wins to show for it like everyone else seems to. And it's kind of starting to mess with my head. I scroll through social media and I see other business owners celebrating these huge milestones, and I feel totally inadequate. Like, I'm putting in all this effort, but because I don't have the big numbers or the exciting announcements to post about, maybe it doesn't matter. Does that mean I'm failing, or am I just measuring success all wrong? So I want to tell you two stories about times I've been forced to question my own definition of success. Today, I had coffee with a friend who I've known for nearly 15 years. She's also an entrepreneur, and we've been able to watch each other open our businesses, grow them, struggle, question what the hell we're doing often, every side of it. And she knew me back when I had my gym, and she works in hospitality. And one of the many things that we've always lamented to each other is the frustration of not making the kind of revenue that we'd like, despite working so hard. We've asked ourselves this question over and over. Why do we work so hard, do all the things everyone else seems to be doing, and yet they all seem to be raking it in, and we're seeing disappointing financial returns? And then she reminded me, because this is what friends do as I'm rolling my eyes. Just kidding. Not totally. She reminded me that I impacted hundreds or most likely thousands of people's lives who came through my gym to work out. People who showed up to the gym's anniversary parties, who came to community events, who became friends with each other outside of the gym, who kept coming back because I made a genuine connection with them, because I listened, because I cared. And she was right, I guess. But, you know, that impact didn't show up on my P&L statement. It didn't, necessarily increase my profit margins. And there was no ding on my Apple Watch to validate it, but it still mattered. And it still does. And it's really important to have people in your life to offer this kind of perspective, even if you roll your eyes. So that conversation with my friend got me thinking about another time that I really questioned my definition of success as it pertains to my entire identity. When I closed my gym after 9 years, I filled my schedule with personal training clients in my garage gym. It was relatively easy to book up, and I was making decent money, and the business model was far simpler, way less overhead, way less stress, way more take home pay. But I felt really insecure about this pivot, and I felt really insecure talking about it because I was no longer, quote, a business owner. I was, quote, just a trainer again. as if I'd given myself a demotion. And let me be clear, this is no shade whatsoever to trainers. It is not easy work. The hours suck. It's physically demanding. It requires expertise and skill, and it's pretty exhausting. But I had come to completely intertwine my identity with my career title, as if because I couldn't say I own a gym, my credibility was somehow diminished. My worth as a professional and kind of as a person felt smaller. And the irony is that I was actually taking home more money during this time than I did when I had all the overhead and expenses of running a gym. And I still could not admit to myself that I was successful. I let a title, a business model define my success, even when the actual results, financial stability, work life balance, client impact, were better than ever. So here's what I hope you take away. First, call upon your spotters. You know those people in your life who actually know you? The ones who can remind you that success extends so far beyond metrics? Lean on them, because your inner critic and your inner imposter will try to take over and convince you that if it's not flashy, loud, or impressive, it doesn't count. And your spotters will remind you of the truth. Quick pause. I was that kid in school whose notes everyone wanted to borrow before the test. Color-coded, organized, the whole deal. I'm still doing it, but now for entrepreneurship instead of AP Bio. My Substack is basically me sharing my notes with you. The podcast gives you the big ideas. My Substack shows you how to implement them. Step-by-step guides, templates, and real stories from the trenches. Subscribe for free at leslieboyce.substack.com. That's LESLIEBOYCE. And let's take this from theory into practice. Because knowing you should hit the gym and actually getting there to do the reps are two very different things. And second, you are not just your career. I loved owning a gym, and you love what you do too. But you are not just your business. You're not just your revenue numbers or your follower count or your job title. You're a whole person. Or maybe I'd say you're a whole ass person. You're a parent, a sister, a tennis player, a friend. You're a lot of things, but you're also someone who runs a business. It's not only okay to measure your success by the quality of your relationships and your impact on others, it might actually be more important than your job title. And third, the wins that don't ding still count. Just like the health benefits that don't show up on your Apple Watch. By the way, I totally stopped wearing it. The impact that you're making in your business, the client who finally feels seen, the relationship you're building, the consistency you're showing up even when it's hard, those are the things that matter. They're building something sustainable, and they just don't happen to come with external validation. So the next time you're scrolling through social media and feeling like you're not measuring up, remember, you might be winning in ways that don't show up on a dashboard, and those might be the ways that matter the most. Your challenge this week is to write down 3 wins from your business that have nothing to do with revenue, followers, or external recognition. Maybe it's a thank you message from a client. Maybe it's the fact that you showed up consistently even when you really didn't feel like it. Maybe it's a boundary you held or a value you refused to compromise on. Write them down and celebrate them because they count. And then after you do that, share this episode, leave a review, subscribe, and submit your Hey Coach questions to Leslie@thefitnessofbusiness.com. See you next time.